Hey everybody, David Guido here, founder and CEO, Chief Encouragement Officer of DRG Performance Solutions. And this week we're going to talk about family relationships and how to make sure that they're strong and powerful and uplifting. You know, have you ever felt angry or bitter at family? Who hasn't, right? At one time or another, we're humans. But have you ever felt that way? Where maybe something was said or done that you didn't like, or you felt like something should have been said or should have been done and it wasn't? Or have you said things? Have you done things that maybe you weren't supposed to do, or you should have done or should have said? And it's caused strife, it's caused a rift, it's caused relationships with family to suffer. You know, have you been involved in situations, quarrels, whether, about money? That's a big one. Somebody has it, somebody doesn't, somebody lent it, somebody borrowed it, somebody has inherited it, whatever. There's always quarrels about money. In a marriage, money is one of the major issues and one of the leading causes for marriages to break down. And with children and spending a lot of money on children or for children, that can cause quarrels and rifts and strains. Disagreements over day in and day out things in a marriage, or disagreements over bigger picture things with other relatives about, say, elderly parent care. Who's going to take care of mom or dad, who's going to pay for it. It's all these different things that can happen. Sometimes a family member does something that's embarrassing. Sometimes a family member is shunned because of the personal decisions they made about a religion or a place to live. And so with all of this stuff going on, it's hard sometimes to keep family relationships strong and positive and powerful and uplifting to everybody concerned. And I've been there. I've been there in the past. I'm there now with some family relations, and I'm sure in the future, my wife and I will disagree from time to time, and I'm sure that there'll be strain and stress from time to time in relationships. And if you're there now, that perhaps this will help and this will serve you. If your family relationships are great, that's awesome. Maybe what we're going to talk about today will help you in the future when the inevitable stress or strain occurs. And having been there and having had issues and challenges with different family relationships over the years, and even up until through today, I started to look into why. And trying to research and figure out, okay, what's going on here? And then as my journey evolved, and as I've gotten to the place I'm at, I've discovered that there's 4 things that I can do and that I do on a regular basis that have immeasurably improved many of the family relationships that I have. And there are 4 strategies that you can implement now if you're in that place where there's some family relationships that are not great. There are 4 things you can use in the future. If things are great now, but at some point down the road something changes, and then perhaps these 4 strategies will help you. They've helped me immeasurably. And what are those 4? The first is forgiveness, and the most important one. And we need to be able to forgive. Now, for those that are Christian, and claim that Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, they know that forgiveness is essential in order to be forgiven by God, in order to be forgiven by Christ. They need to forgive. And there's that biblical side to it. But for any of us, no matter where we're at, if we want to look at it simply from a human perspective, simply from an earthly perspective, forgiveness does 2 things. The first is for ourselves. It frees us. It frees us from the bondage of having stuff hanging over us. When we forgive, then we're free. We are not free until we forgive. And as it pertains to family relationships, if we're not free, we can't be the best family member. We can't be the best at relationships if something's hanging over us. We can't communicate. We can't be objective. We can't be sympathetic. We can't be empathetic if we're holding this thing that we're not willing to let go of. And from the relationship perspective, it also benefits the other person. And what I've found is that in most cases when somebody says something or does something and realizes it's wrong in virtually every case, they're racked with guilt as well. And that guilt holds them back. That guilt prevents them from going to the next level. Somebody forgiving them allows them to break through. And then both sides, the person who was forgiven and the person who did the forgiving, have the ability to rebuild a bond. So when you're hurt, when you're angry, when you're bitter, when something has been an offense to you, the first and the most important thing that you can do is forgive, because it frees you to rebuild the relationship, and it allows them to break through whatever guilt or bad feelings they have so they can rebuild the relationship. So that's the first thing. The second thing is open and honest communication without assumption. Passive aggressive communication, behind the back gossip communication, it ain't going to cut it. Doesn't work. Not if your goal is powerful, strong, uplifting relationships with family members. It's not going to cut it. So what we need to do is we need to be open and honest directly with the person that we're having an issue with, or that are the person who the relationship is strained with. We need to have open and honest communication. And there's two things about that in particular. Number one, when we go to a family member with an issue, there's two different ways to do it. And maybe you've seen this before. Maybe you've seen this first way, where one family member goes to the other, I know why you did that. You did that because, and I can't believe you did that. And what were you thinking? And all of these accusatory, attack-oriented statements and body language and tonality, right? That's not how we build relationships. That's not how we build powerful, uplifting, positive relationships, at least. So we don't want to be attack-oriented. We don't want to say, I can't believe you did that, and what were you thinking, and you are such and such, right? The second part of open and honest communication is the person being spoken at. If somebody comes to you and says, I don't like what you did, and you lash out and say, well, I can't believe what you did, or well, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for you, or well, I had my good reasons. That prevents open and honest communication. That's going to defeat the purpose of rebuilding or building a strong, powerful, uplifting, positive relationship. So what you do instead, the person who's going to sit down and say, I want to talk with you, a better way to handle it is to say, I really didn't like what you said or did. It kind of bothered me. It offended me. I forgive you, step one. But I want to work through it so that we come out on the other side stronger. And I want to hear your side, and I want to hear what you thought and why you said or did, or why you didn't say, or why you didn't do. But I need you to know it bothered me, and I want to work through it. I want to work through it with you. Conversely, rather than get defensive and lash out back in anger, if you're the person being spoken at, the better response is to say, I didn't see it that way. I disagree, maybe even. But I understand and respect where you're coming from. Let me explain why I took the action I took. And let's work through it. I would like to work through it as well. That kind of open and honest communication will build strong, powerful, uplifting relationships far more than attack-oriented, accusation-oriented, angry, bitter, defensive communication will ever do. And then the assumptive part is, maybe you've heard this before. Maybe you've heard somebody say, well, our brother, our cousin, my wife, my husband, our children, they did what they did, or they said what they said, or they didn't do what they didn't do, or they didn't say what they didn't say, because they're a such and such, and because they're just mean, they're just that, they have this issue. How do you know? How do you know if you haven't asked? If you haven't forgiven them, and you haven't sat down to have open and honest communication without emotion, and you haven't asked a lot of questions, you don't ever really know for sure. When you assume, you're not going to have powerful, uplifting, positive, strong bonds. The way you are going to have those things, if instead of assuming, you go to the family member and say, I want to know why. Tell me why. Tell me what you were thinking. Tell me kind of what went into the decision. Tell me where you're at now so I can understand better, so that we can work through it. Far better way to communicate. So that's step 2. So first thing, we forgive. Second thing, open and honest communication and never assume. The third is to spend time together. Seems like a no-brainer, but how many people work 70 or 80 hours a week, don't spend time together in their own homes with their immediate family? How many times do you hear, well, I haven't talked to my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my parents in weeks or months, but I know they love me and I love them and we'd be there for each other. That may be true. But if we're looking to build the strongest, most powerful, and most uplifting relationships possible with our family, it's not going to cut it either. And in this day and age, where with technology, we can get on Zoom, get on FaceTime. What's the other one? Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, get on Skype. Then there is no excuse to spend time together, whether it's virtually or in person. And we cannot have the strongest bond possible with the greatest support, where it's all uplifting and strong and deep, if we're not spending time together. So we need to spend that time together. And the fourth is to serve the other person first. Serve your family first. So often we don't turn off the TV to talk with our spouse or our children. The phone rings and we look down and it's a cousin or an aunt or an uncle or a mother or father or brother or sister, whoever, and we say, I'm in the middle of my sports event on TV. I'm in the middle of my television sitcom. I'm in the middle of my book. That's not how we serve each other first. And it goes to, how can I help you today? If it's an immediate family member, pick up the phone, call somebody. Hey, how you doing? I know we haven't seen each other in a week, a month, a year. Can I help you in any way, even from here? How you doing? What can I do to help you? What tell me where your things are at. Notes, handwritten notes in the immediate home, in the family, in the house, or texts or emails. Hey, just wanted to let you know I love you and I think you're doing great, and I just wanted to encourage you today to keep moving forward, keep doing what you're doing, whatever the case might be. Just wanted to let you know, just check in and see how you're doing, just wanted to say hi. That's putting other people first. And when we serve other people first and we put other people ahead of ourselves, as we've talked about in previous blogs, that's when we're the most happy, and that's when we're the most fulfilled, and that's when our hearts are at the most peace, is when we're serving other people. And so we want to make sure that we're serving our family members first. That creates the strongest bonds, the deepest bonds, the most positive and most uplifting relationships. Now, a couple of final notes on those 4 things. So the 4 things: forgiveness, open and honest communication without assumptive communication, without assuming, spending time together, and serving the other person first. And tell them I love you. The foundation has to be there of love and respect. You can't forgive, and you can't have open and honest and non-passive aggressive communication without love and respect. You're not going to spend time with people you don't love and respect. And you're certainly not going to serve others first if you don't have love and respect. So the foundation of love and respect has to be there in order for this to work. And the second note, you may not get cooperation from all your family members. They may not be on the same page. They may not want to engage in these 4 things. And that's okay. And you need to walk away if that is in fact the case. If you try to do these 4 things, if you try to engage in the strategies and the techniques to build up the relationships and make them positive and make them strong and make them uplifting, to eliminate stress and strain and strife and issues and challenges that are between family members, and they're not willing to come to the table, and they're not on the same page, then you need to walk away. You still forgive them, and you be there for them the nanosecond, the minute they need help. You're there for them, and you continue to love them. But just like any other relationship, family or otherwise, if you're here and you want to get to here, you need to surround yourself with the people that are going to bring you there. And any relationship that is not powerful and positive and strong and deep and uplifting is not going to help you get there. And so it's a relationship that you have to walk away from, that you have to back burner. Again, you love them, you're there for them the nanosecond they need help. And if they ever come around and want to engage in these 4 strategies and want to rebuild or want to eliminate strife in the relationship that they have with you, then you be there and you engage and you turn that around. But while they're not on the same page, while they don't want to walk that path, while they don't want to be on that journey with you, they do need to take a back seat so that you can continue to get to where you want to go. Every single solitary person is here and wants to be here. Whatever that is for you, it's different for everybody. And there's certain people that you need to surround yourself to get from where you are to where you want to be. And those that are not on that journey, not on that path, don't want to engage, don't want to build with you, then they do need to take a back seat. So those are 2 final notes. If you're thinking, well, this is the same for all other relationships, you're absolutely right. That's kind of the way it is for all relationships. But what I've found was true for me in many cases, and is true for a lot of other people I know, is that we follow these 4 things in all of our relationships except family. With our friends or the people at work, we forgive them much easier, much more rapidly than we do family. You know, we engage in open and honest conversation with our friends and with that trusted confidant, but not with our spouse or our brother or sister or our parents. You know, we assume our family's doing some things, you know, and we assume that why they did what they did. But when a colleague does something at work, we go and ask them about it, and we try to get to the bottom of it, is the phrase we use. You know, we spend a lot of time at work, we spend a lot of time with our work colleagues, we spend a lot of time with our friends, you know, Sunday football and all of these other things, but we don't spend time with our family. We spend time with our television, we spend time with our books, but we don't spend time with our family. We serve the people at work, we try to help them with their projects, we try to help them, you know, kind of get done what they need to get done. We help our friends move, we help our friends do things, but we don't serve our family first. We don't tell our family we love them. We don't send them notes, encouraging texts or emails, or we don't pick up the phone and call them. We don't just simply say, is there anything I can do for you? But we're constantly asking people at work and our friends, what can we do for them? So the ironic thing is that these 4 principles, these 4 strategies, we put into place a lot, but oftentimes we don't put them in place with our own family, and we need to do that. Now, if you're in a marriage that is, that has a lot of stress and strife and strain, and you don't want to walk away from that, you need to get counseling, because you shouldn't walk away from that. You should get counseling if you're not already involved. So those 4 things, as well as anything else that you need to work on, become part of your relationship with your spouse. You know, for me, for the longest time, I didn't do any of these things. I didn't forgive, I held grudges, I was angry, I was bitter, and I shut down. I didn't have open and honest communication and express how I felt, and if somebody came to me and told me they were mad at me, I lashed out at them and made them feel bad. And I didn't spend time with family. I didn't try to spend time with family. And I was more interested in me and what I wanted than what anybody else wanted. Certainly not family, certainly family as well. And what I've learned is that was a great deal of the reason why a lot of the family relationships I had weren't very good. But a lot of the family relationships, my wife and other people now, are strong as ever. And they're powerful and they're uplifting because I'm quick to forgive, because I'm open and honest without emotion. I don't assume anymore. I try to spend time and with anybody who's willing to spend time with me at this point, you know, family or otherwise. And I'm always looking for things I can do to serve. And I've noticed that since I incorporated those 4 strategies, not only my family relationships, but all the relationships I have grown in strength, in depth, And now the majority of my relationships are overwhelmingly uplifting, and more so every day because I continue to implement these 4 strategies. And all that creates is another piece to the So Good Life puzzle. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If this serves you, that is awesome. That's what I hope. I hope that it serves. If you know somebody who's having some family relationship issues and they're struggling in 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of these 4 areas, send this to them. Hopefully it will serve them. And hopefully they'll pick something up and implement 1 or more of these strategies and start to see the fundamental shift in relations that I've seen. In the meantime, until the next time, again, my sincerest thanks and appreciation. Discover something new every day. Reach for your stars and go for it so that you can live a life that is so good.